All right, I'm in the chats, and it looks like we are live.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, we're live, Matthew. We started a few minutes early. Hello, Hippie Shakes, and everyone else. Oh, we got Capalicious 420 here.
All right.
I'm going to have to add mod. Done. And Jess Palmer. Hey, adding mod. Done. Good to see some veterans. Good to see you too, Katie. Kate G. Going to be a crazy show, guys. It's going to be a a stream of consciousness, to say the least.
Jake's just willing himself through it. He's been working pretty hard on it. So big thanks to Jake for all the effort that he's put in.
Yeah, I haven't slept in 30 hours or something like that.
Yeah. So right now on our live stream, we've just got a still shot of an elephant in the air, and then our audio is coming through.
There you go. I fixed it. I fixed it before you said something to me, but just moments before.
Hey, there we are. Now I can see us.
Yeah. At the top of the hour, I'll play the little elephant Boo Ranch clip.
All right.
I guess start off the festivities here.
I want to know more. What's up? Thanks for joining. Capalicious 420.
Yep.
That's a cool handle. I like that. I always see cool ones like that. I'm like, man, I wish I'd have thought of something cool like that.
Yeah. It's tough, man, powering through when you've been literally staring at a computer for 30 hours straight.
Well, I was listening to the Melodome this morning, and now I have the song that Austin played at the end of it, "Dinosaurs in Space." It's now stuck in my head. Dinosaurs in space, dinosaurs in space. It's awesome. Got that going on.
I have the chats going on my other monitor, so I can try to keep up.
Yeah, we're gonna.
We're glad you're here too, Capalicious. I need my tambourine. All right, I'm going to play some Boo Ranch.
There we go.
Am I sharing my audio?
Yes. Oh, from your no, from your computer, or I can't hear it. If you're playing Blue Ranch, you can hear it.
Okay, we have technical difficulties again already. All right. That sound should be coming through. Okay, here we go. All right. That was short and sweet. Well, welcome everybody. Very, very happy to have you here. And as I was mentioning earlier, we're gonna give it a few minutes for people to pile in here. But I haven't had any sleep. I'm not firing on all cylinders right now. Literally been up all night trying to fine tune my slides, and everything's not as I wanted it, but we're just going to wing it. We're going to be fine. So what we're going to do, Mathew and I decided that he's going to share, the whole idea behind this show all along was he and I have been like having some heated discussions for the last 2 years about this realm and how the total design of it. And Mathew comes from a heavy spiritual side of things, and I come from more of the scientific side. Both of us dabble. I dabble in the spirituality side a lot. Always have. You have to, right? Because there's a lot of truth to distill from all of that. And Mathew does the same thing with the science, but his heart's really in the spiritual side. And mine's always been in the science. I like to take things apart, put them back together. I like to invent things, and that's me. But so we talked about this, how we talked about doing a pre-recorded show where we would basically plan it all out and just come to an agreement. And Mathew had the idea, why don't we come to do a show where you show me what you think the model is, and I'll show you what I think it is, and then we'll have the discussion live on YouTube. And I at first didn't really like that idea, and both of us are kind of scared about it off and on, like, oh man, I might be way off, and then from what you're going to show. And I think our ideas are going to overlap, and I said this on Iron Realm the other night. They're going to overlap with some things are going to be out of place, need to be moved around, and you'll see what we're talking about when we get going here. But I've become really good friends with Mathew over the last 2 years, at least 2 years, 2.5 years. Consider him one of my best friends, and really, if he was a chick, he'd be like a soulmate, But yeah, he and I get along. We have a lot of heated discussions though. We yell at each other a lot. We'll end up, starting off on a 20-minute phone call, and it'll turn into 3 hours. And it'll be me going, do you realize we've been talking for 3 hours? And so we ended up deciding to do a podcast of our conversations. Now, we haven't been active for the past month or so because we've been working on this particular show. Now, once we do this show this morning, then we are going to just do as many shows as possible as Mathew has availability. I said I'm going to be willing to do a show every day if we can do it. But both of us are going to be breaking all the aspects of these models down. And Mathew will be breaking down some spiritual aspects on his channel as well as scientific stuff. And I'm going to be doing the same. So on my channel and on Intellectual Ketchup. And then, of course, he's on the Big Skinny Mathew channel. And then all the Big Skinny content the two of us create together is going to be here on this channel. And so that's the layout. And so Mathew, are you able to share? I need to make sure you can share your screen. Let's see here. Oh, you can share. Okay, good.
Yep. I can do that. I'm gonna go ahead and uh, pop that up. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but yeah. So kind of what to sort of uh, piggyback onto what Jake said. I mean, basically, what we have had kind of decided amongst the two of us is, um, well, as far as just believing in flat Earth and or just is the Earth flat, is the Earth a globe? We obviously know that we obviously we understand the deception that's taken place, at least for the most part. Um, and just being coming from a spirit and a mindset of consistently wanting to learn, wanting to get closer, wanting to grow, wanting to ascend in knowledge and get better. And we can't do that. We can do that individually, but we really when we do it corporately, I think it's much better, and we can really work to help create the world that we want to have. And so I think that this is extremely important for all of us to share ideas and share thoughts and sort of put them together. Um, what I've done and I've been working on is basically just a lot of esoteric study on the realm, and then a little bit of basic science, of it as well. Just kind of, I mean, nothing complicated. It's just basic stuff that what I think I found is that it's a lot more obvious, and um, it's a lot more obvious than we realize. And at the end of the show, I think we're going to kind of verbally and visually sort of explain the realm that we live in. But to start off by saying this is, I completely understand why I believe, and after working on this and putting this together, why I believe, and a lot of us believe, that the Earth is observably flat, and I do think that that's correct. But I think that I think it's partially correct. I think that there's more to it that is just as important as the shape of the terra firma, that we live on. And I think that understanding it, or just like trying to understand it, just trying to understand it, is very key. And you realize how important those things are. I think once you start to try to understand it, and I think probably everybody that's listening has probably had that realization, that when everyone asks you, well, why would they deceive you? Why would they lie to you? Well, it's because they control you by putting your mind in a box. They control you by, and then they get it, they get you all confused when you're in school and you're a little kid, and they flip everything around on you, and tell you everything is like backwards, and 25 degrees off, and 10 degrees off, and 5 degrees off of where it is. And then all they need to do to get your attention is just tell you a little bit more of the truth, and just align you a little bit more to it. And then you feel like you've like won a victory, or you feel like you've learned something. And I was listening to the Melodome this morning, and they were talking about, the disinformation police, that are going to be coming after us, right? And they're nicknaming it the Ministry of Truth, from 1984. And I'm a firm. Now, this is going to be contrary, but please, if I have a contrary opinion, it doesn't mean that I don't have value in your opinion. So if I have a contrary opinion of somebody else, please don't beat me up for it. You can talk to me about it, tell me you think I'm wrong all day long, and I might be wrong. And if you make more sense than I do to myself, I'll probably listen to you. But I don't think that those things are going to be permanent. I think that they're nebulous. I think that for the reset that's happening, that we're going through, they're setting something up to fall, so we feel like we've won a victory. And that's the only reason, that's the only way they're going to get us to accept it and comply and go into it, is because we're going to feel like we've won. So, I think that, as long as this stuff has been planned, when I look at it, I look at the book 1984, and you see those things happening around you now, and you see all of us Gen Xers, up to like, all of us that are aware of the book, going, well, this is the stuff that's actually happening. I can't believe this stuff is actually happening. And we know it's wrong. And they taught us it was wrong. They told us to stay away from it and to resist this stuff. And they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. There's a false dichotomy that's played out all the time, to where one side is right and one side is wrong. And that's used in different ways. And so ultimately, we'll think that we've won when we've lost. And I know that that sounds maybe demoralizing, but the only way, in my opinion and my belief, to actually combat and come back and push back in a healthy manner against what's is to ascend above it spiritually. And so that brings me to my question is, where is information stored? Is it stored in a place in our brains, in our memories? Or is it possible that information is actually just stored in the ether, in the light, and your neural pathways in your brain are just ways to connect to that energy? That's what I think the truth is. But with that, our entanglement in the world around us is such that we can only perceive certain things. But those things that we can perceive, I think, are deeper than we give ourselves credit for. And so I'm going to go ahead and start. And this is kind of what I would call sort of the spiritual view of our realm. And the photo that we're looking at, just to kind of give some explanation, God said, "Let there be light." And light, in my opinion, is consciousness. And then God took that and separated day from night, light from dark. And I'm using the yin yang just as kind of a representation of that. It doesn't mean that, anything other, to me, is just a representation of it. And there's a few other elements in this first image that I put together that we're going to get into. But I love this dog cam video where it just shows the horizon. And I had somebody on TikTok comment on a TikTok that I had posted, and they said, "The horizon destroys your flat earth religion." I was like, what? The horizon is flat. I don't understand. But I don't understand what they were thinking, but they're thinking something. Now, the basis of it, this is something that I like to, I refer to as science of the living, or as science of the dead. And I think that, what academia has done to us is it's taken the life out of the earth around us, and it's taken the life out of science, and it's completely sort of just twisted it around, and it causes us to view the world as dead instead of alive. And so the only accepted way we have of gathering information about our physical world is through our 5 lower sensory perceptions. Now, I do, however, believe that all of us possess a higher perception, still usable, though I think it might once have been stronger than it is now. But I think we can still access and use it. And we're never going to truly know or define our world until we have sort of a mass scale vibrational shift, and we return that lost element to the equation. It seems that we've taken all spirituality out of the scientific equation, and in doing so, we've created a system based on viewing the world as dead, when I think we should intrinsically know the world is not a static environment. Perhaps the globe or space model is, in truth, just not true, but I misspoke here. Hang on. Is perhaps the globe or space model is an inverse of the truth? Just by falsely defining unseen aspects of the world around us as demonstratable and creating cartoons and showing it to us, and then inverting it, we lose the power behind creation, and we literally see it as dead. And that brings me to the basis of my argument. I think that we need to talk about these things without fear of being wrong. We need to reintroduce spirituality into the model of our world. And if we choose not to, I don't think we'll ever have the insight to our existence that we should have. This is my attempt at doing that. I don't anticipate that I'm 100% accurate. Rather, I want this to be my contribution to the fabric of our collective intuition and the collective discussion. Now, here's something that I've shared in the past in videos, and I kind of took it down recently just because I wanted to keep the content all together for this purposes of what we're doing now. But one thing that most of us know is that I think that hidden truth, occult hidden truth, is something that has to be internally. And I really like this diagram of this because what it shows exoteric, spiritual teaching in all flavors. It has to come from source. It has to. The reason it has to is because there has to be some sort of chemical reaction. There has to be some sort of reward, some sort of intrinsic value, or we're not going to necessarily accept it and believe it. But if this is true, which I believe it is true, then all knowledge that harmonizes, that says the same thing across the board, I think is valid. And I think our challenge really on an individual basis is to discern truth through our own perceptive abilities of touch, taste, sight, sound, and smell. Whereas salvation is promised as a gift from God by one religion, it's sought through meditation and spiritual ascension by others. But I think logic says that we all have the fingerprint of creation flowing through us. The light from let there be light in the Bible, and all creation around us testifies to that nonstop. And why I like this diagram, because it shows kind of the outer edges is a little bit darker, and it shows how all of these different religious thought traditions really come from the same spot. And then you see the esoteric right in the middle, and then you see truth in the very, very center, and it flows out into everything. And there are those that know this truth, and that's what we're trying to find. That's what we're working towards, and we have to do it alone, and I think we also have to do it together. An example, and I brought this up on IRM the other night, an example of exoteric teaching is from Genesis 1:1, and would be, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so when you break that down in Hebrew, I'm not going to try and pronounce it because my pronunciation of Hebrew is horrible. I'm just going to show this one particular part. You see these first two words. This ITH that we have, if you simply took this and put it next to Brash, there you go, my terrible enunciation, it changes the meaning entirely. And I think it's actually likely what it was supposed to mean in the first place, because it actually harmonizes with other esoteric teachings. What it does is, if you take that ITH and you slide it over, it changes it from in the beginning to out of the ever existing essence. God created the heavens and the earth. So I think the correct way to view Genesis 1:1 is an ever existing essence. And that's what all creation comes from. And I think that the teaching used to say that, and I think it's likely it's just been changed, it's been redefined, which is sad, but I think it has. Genesis 1:3, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And it's my argument that all light is consciousness being spoken into the essence of frequency. This is an awesome video I'm going to play. What this is basically the person that made this video literally is pouring salt on a metal plate and running frequency through it. And that salt is actually the information that's in that frequency is also light. And that salt is moving and following the information of the frequencies going through it. I'm going to play this real quick. Rock. I'm sure you've seen this video before, but it's definitely worth watching. Pay attention to the shapes before they come up again. Main cosmology, right here, right in the center, taking shape as the gene cosmological model. So what I'm saying is that the whole the whole of all creation is not static. It's not a finished product. It's something that there's continual churning, continual vibration, continual emanation from it, and it's like it's like, and somehow this produces consciousness through light. Um, I'm gonna go through this really kind of quickly and just kind of give a basis of this. This is called Carillion photography, and essentially what this is doing is it's a technique that is running some discernible mild electrical charge through animate and inanimate objects, and the it shows the electric potential that it has. And in this particular one, I mean, it's pretty amazing to look at some of the photographs of food and inanimate objects and things like that. And people might have heard about this, but essentially, it's going to go really quick. This video, there's a lot of information in it, so we don't necessarily have to grab all of it to move forward. Just know that the emanation of our aura is something that can be recorded scientifically. It's real, and it's just information. So this particular image that I stopped on, this is this is a reflection. I'm sorry, this is a Carillion picture of an organic grown mushroom and a mushroom that was a mushroom that was grown in a lab, commercially grown mushroom. And what it is just a small electrical charge going through this, and they take the picture through a screen, and it's just in a dark room. And what you see is you see the current, you see the electricity, you see how this connects to the ether. What this indicates to me is that the entire realm that we live in is literally, it's full. It's not, there's no space, there's no vacuum. We consider it pressure, but this is an actual visible representation of how we are connected. And basically all biological life is dependent upon this woven together fabric of light that is emanating through all of creation. A couple pictures of leaves. If you're stuff too, they have pictures of leaves, of limbs. If you're missing a limb, they can actually take a picture of the missing part of your limb, will show up electronically, indicating that light is actually just carrying information that your body is responding to. And, your body responds to it, in my opinion, through two elements, but through two main ones. It's going to be water and salt.
Matthew, when your video's playing music, you break up pretty bad. It's kind of hard to hear you when you're music.
Is that better?
Yeah.
There we go. And there's like the emanation from plants. And so what I was saying is there are two elements that when you take a picture, let me restart it here. With some of these photographs, they were taking pictures of limbs that are that have been cut off if you've had an amputated arm, and the electricity actually shows where the arm should be. It's a phantom limb. It'll create a picture of the phantom limb.
Wow.
And I think that's because it's information.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's literally information that is supposed to be that's given to your body, and what physically makes up what we see, the information that's carried in that, and that's becomes transferred into something that's solid, is water and saline. Salt is kind of the basis of it. It's pretty fantastic. And so if anybody, Carillion, Kirliran, Carillion Photography, I would highly recommend anybody that's interested in learning more about that, just take a look at it. But again, the basis of sound is a form of vibrational energy that propagates through all mediums except in a vacuum, right? But a vacuum doesn't actually exist, in my opinion. So that's I mean, it's something that can't exist. There can't be nothing. Everything is full. Everything is full. Here's something that I showed. I gave a little preview of this on Iron Realm Media the other night. So we talk about Genesis 1:7. God made the expanse and separated the waters beneath from the waters above. The Hebrew for expanse is rakia, which is the noun, sort of a noun for roka, R-O-K, roka. What it is the result. It's the result that you get from pounding out a piece of copper or a piece of metal, like into a bowl or a sheet, and moving it out. What I'm going to suggest is that the firmament or the expanse, it depends on which translation of the Bible that you're looking at, is not necessarily like a static glass dome. That there sort of is a line of demarcation where there's a drastic change, and I think you can witness that just by looking at the waters in the ocean, where you get to the top of the water, and then all of a sudden you're out of the water. You think you're out of the water, but you're really not, because the water exists above that too, just in a little bit of a different form. But the realm and the firmament, or what we would consider the firmament that's separating the waters, is a continual vibration of light and sound. And this video, I think, shows exactly how that can happen. And so essentially all this is this person took a speaker and ran a hose through it, and they're just taking different frequencies and vibrating and causing the water to move with those frequencies. It's pretty amazing. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just different frequencies causing that to happen. You know what's going on here. There we go. So I'm going to show you something here. This is called sonoluminescence. So did you know that sound creates light underwater? Here's a video of it from UCLA. This is a bubble that's being created by an acoustic sound wave that's pushed into water. And in the center of that, there's light. And we perceive that. We perceive that light. That's what we see. And I don't think that there's any reason to believe that this happens underwater, and that what we see when we look at the dome, the celestial dome above us, that's any different. I don't think there's any reason to believe it's different. In fact, I think it's the same. I think it's absolutely the same. Hebrews 11:3. Hebrews 11:3 says, through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Faith is not blind, in my opinion. It is your internal gut instinct. Faith tells us that which is not seen. I believe the way that faith is defined by modern religion is a lie. Faith, the definition of faith by modern religion is basically, has to do with your belief in the dogma. And that's just, to me, that's not accurate. It's your faith is the understanding that we all have of the elements that make up the world that we see. And the reason that we have an awareness of them is because we're also made up of the same. It's your internal, intrinsic connection to and knowledge of the realm and creation. And I think that in a perfect world, we could corporately view them as usable, definable, and perceivable sensory perception. Now, when it comes to perception, another thing, we're massively limited. We only see a small fraction of what's around us. When we looked at the sonoluminescent bubble in the water, what we saw a little bit of light, but we didn't see everything that's happening inside of it. You don't see where that sonic bubble is coming from. All of it is just focused on one little point and one little bit. Well, consider that light is pouring through you and going through you, and you're like a vessel, you're like a vase. And the shape of your vase is being made up by the information that tells you what you are, and so is your consciousness. So is my consciousness. But that is also this that in my opinion is also the case for everything else in the world. So the world of humans, the world of insects, the world of animals, the world of plants and minerals, the world of birds and creatures of the air, the world of creatures of the water. Everything has a different level or different perceptive ability. And so therefore, they're all perceiving all the light and elements differently in different ways around us. And that perception creates a different reality, a different world. And so we live in a realm where different worlds coexist. They intersect, but they also coexist. And that is one of the craziest things that for me that I come to the realization of in working on this. So take as example a dog's sense of smell. You know, a dog's sense of smell is 30 times more sensitive than a human's. That ability alone is proof that the perceivable reality of a dog, while intersecting and overlapping with ours, is different, and that dog's reality is different. That dog's reality expands to the smells that it picks up outside of your living room, or when it goes outside and it can pick up, you know, it smells what the, you know, the other dogs that have gone and left their information you know, behind when you're walking through the dog park. It's a fractal. It's like it's a big fractal. And that brings me to one of my favorite parts here. This is Jane cosmology. And Jane cosmology, we're going to just do a kind of I think there's some really interesting stuff about this. So Jane cosmology would consider a lokakasha, which can be viewed as space in existence, as all of the space of existence. And all of that space contains all of the elements of physical life. And so it would suggest that it's full, and the idea of space really is just an illusion, according to Jane cosmology. Now, the entirety of the realms of Jane cosmology, we have this little spot in the middle. It's the human universe. This is our perceivable reality. And this is something that we live inside of. We don't live on the outside of it. We live on the inside of it. Some other important things to note too, Loka in Jane cosmology could be considered creation, and it's ever existing. There's no end, there's no beginning. It's ever existing. It's always been there. Over here on the right of my thing, I have the Jane cosmic man, and in the center, you know, right about where his gut is, that's the, according to Jainism, that's the realm that we live in. That's the world that we live in. And it is, as you can see, like right through the center here, this could be the Terra. This could be the terra firma right there, being created. Just the information that of the light flowing through is creating this terra firma, and it's perceivably could be flat. It could also be, you know, it could also be perceivably other things too, because I don't know that we've really been able to go out and test and study things in a scientific manner like we really should, in order to actually kind of, you know, get that information. And perhaps we have in the past, but then that information's just been hidden from us too, which I think is very, very likely as well. But if we take Jane cosmology and we just turn it sideways, all of a sudden it looks like a sound wave. And I'm going to submit the idea that our physical existence resides in a certain frequency, and even a certain frequency spectrum. In the current physical state in which we call life, there's a spectrum that we won't be able to exist above or below. But that doesn't mean that spectrum doesn't exist. It certainly does. But those are elements that right now we cannot entertain or cannot be in. And we can get into, and I'm going to be getting into a lot of that, you know, regarding the different bardos of life and death and possible rebirth as well in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardo Thodol. But this brings me to my first real kind of illustration of what I think our realm, what's happening in our realm. And so we're going to start with, out of the ever existing essence God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was first formless and void, and then the light was created and separated from the dark. The waters above were separated from the waters below. The expanse, rakia. My question is, are the waters the ever-existing essence? After this, dry land was created when the waters were gathered together at the lowest point. And it's only then that the sun, the moon, and the stars became visible in the expanse. The order of creation is very significant in my opinion. The light, and I'm going to say this from a place of authority because I'm firmly convicted that the light is our consciousness. The Creator spoke consciousness into the essence and created what we see as our realm. And perhaps the celestial resonance has to continue in order to continually create our world. What we see as the moon and the sun are literal, in my opinion, literal reflections of that consciousness, of that resonance, the sonoluminescence in a realm that is just made up of water from top to bottom. It's just water in different states and different forms. Jake said this the other night on Iron Realm Media, and water can exist as a solid at room temperature. And you know this because you're mostly water. And of course, that's saying that there's other elements, involved in that too. And that's absolutely true. But you're not liquid, you're water. You're water. Or I'm sorry, you're not solid. You're well, yeah, you're water.
We're swamp people.
Swamp people. There you go. Exactly. The worlds of sentient life overlap on this physical realm and create separate but similar realities, according to the individual ability to perceive. And the fractal of life may continue into other worlds of continual existence as well. Each one, including this, is simply sound and light creating the realm. The spectrum, I think, is demonstrated in all creation. I believe that we are sentient beings made up of the elements inside the intention of another sentient being who is referred to by many names and titles. All creation, including our realm, is simply intention being cast into the essence, perceivable by us as light. And it has a frequency we can hear. We don't see it, we only perceive attributes of it. However, through what we could refer to as faith, or whatever we want to refer to it as, we can know that it exists. I'm going to play this really quick just for a second. This is actually the sound that plants make. Turn that up a little bit.
Have you seen the video where somebody took the sounds from stars and compared it to the sounds of whales?
No. It's crazy. That's crazy.
It sounds like they're communicating with the stars.
So there we have it right there. Sound that plants make. How insane is that? And so that brings me to my hand drawing of what I perceive to be our realm. And yes, I drew this myself and hung it on my refrigerator. I'm very proud of it.
Nice.
I chose the yin yang again as just a representation because it's a visual. I'm not trying to define the yin yang. I'm not trying to misuse it, and on a large scale, I may not use it. But for these purposes, I wanted to use it because it's something that we all kind of understand and have like a belief of and an intrinsic belief of. It's the light. It's the source of consciousness. The sun and the moon are perceivable attributes of the light of consciousness. The all-seeing eye is Polaris. It's a reflection of the consciousness of the terra firma in the expanse. It's the sonoluminescent light created by the acoustic sounds in the world that we live in. The terra firma, the earth that we live on, is observable as motionless, as a motionless plane in which the stars, sun, and moon rotate over and rotate above us. And that rotation that we're seeing is the churning of the light. It's the churning of the sound of the frequencies. We're seeing it happen. The rotation follows the movement of the ever-existing essence, encircling and flowing through our entire realm.
That's pretty cool.
So there we go.
You're going to have to cut one of your ears off now.
Why?
It's a good paint. It's a good painting.
Oh. Well, anyway, that's kind of my deal. That's my spiritual realm, and I'm excited to see what Jake has, because I'm sure it's going to pop time. Well,
You're breaking up on my end. I don't know.
I'm excited to see what Jake has, because I'm sure it's going to tie in a lot of loose ends from what I left. But I'm going to turn that back over to Jake here, and I'm going to stop talking for a minute because I've been talking for a long time. So
I didn't have anything that was. I didn't feel like interrupting you because you were doing so. Like I really was enjoying your presentation. If you guys could tell us in the chats if when he plays his music, if it's choppy on your end, because on my end he was choppy. So we're working out all these technical issues. I'm gonna have to spend a good solid week on OBS and all the software and everything that we're using. So I'm gonna repeat this again for anybody who came in after I said it earlier. I slept 6 hours on Friday night, and that's the last time I slept. So wow. I slept 6 hours since Friday morning, and I've had. To yesterday, all I had was an 8-ounce steak with nothing else. I've literally been just. I'm not whining. I'm just telling you. I don't feel like I'm like all there mentally right now. I even started to hallucinate. I was having ocular migraines. If you don't know what those are, where you start seeing things in your eyes. Right when I got on the phone with Mathew about an hour ago. And so this is reminding me of the time I've driven across the country several times straight through, and you start hallucinating. It's just it's not fun at all. But we wanted to make sure we got this show done. I didn't totally prepare the way I wanted because I just couldn't get it all done. There's so many aspects and so many, I say, nuts and bolts to this whole thing that, and I'm going to be saying some controversial things, and people are going to be challenging me on what I say. And I want to be able to, have a rebuttal and have conversations. I'm not interested in debating. I do want, like Mathew said earlier, we want to have open dialogue with our audience and conversations. And no one needs to agree with us. We don't need people to agree with us. We want to, and Mathew and I never agree, or we never agree. We end up always agreeing at the end of the day, but it's like we argue, and then it's like, wait, oh, you thought the same thing I did, right?
Yeah, we tend to say the same thing different ways a lot.
Differently, very differently. Like yeah.
To echo what you said about not being able to finish it and get it all in, I'm the same way. This is like, I thought it was going to be like cool. I got this done, and now we've got something to work with. And what I realize now is I basically have just laid out a basis of it. There's certainly nothing solid, but there's a basis. There's something to work on. There's some ideas in there for me to work on and continue on. And so that's I plan on having that being some of the focus of Big Skinny Matthew's channel coming up too, and breaking it down a little further. So
I'm going to say this, Mathew. All the revelations I've had the last year or so, not all of them, but a good portion of them, have come from the fact that you've pushed me to analyze my beliefs and my what I thought were proofs or proofs, right? And to give you an example of this is the common thing people say in flat Earth is that we can see too far, and they call that a proof. That's not proof of flat Earth. That's proof that the globe is a lie. And it
disproves that.
Yes.
It disproves that we live on a sphere that is 24,900 miles around at its equator.
Yeah.
Because there's an immovable, unchangeable equation, and you should see the result of that equation at a curvature of 8 inches per mile squared, which is not demonstratable. And that's that in and of itself, that should end the discussion. That really should. It's done. It's done.
Well, it ends the globe discussion.
The globe discussion. Yes, it should end the globe discussion. They need to measure it again. But it's when we discuss things on social media, I had somebody telling me how stupid I was for being a flat earther, and then I said, well, I just gave him that proof that the globe wasn't true, and their response to me was, have I been to the equator to check it myself? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So your whole epistemology is based on this being true. If you're telling me that you think that we need to go to the equator and measure it out to see if it's true or not, I agree with you. Then why do you believe it's true? Some of the level of thought from some of the people that try to argue with you is so sophomoric. It's amazing, and it's hard not to lose your patience with them sometimes. But at the same time, we were all there at one point. We were all there at one point. And
I like your sumo wrestler Mike cover, by the way.
It's a pair of socks. I had a pair of socks, and I kind of converted this one.
Yeah, but I don't know why it reminds me of Christmas for some reason, because it's red. But it's cool. I didn't even know sumo socks existed.
Sumo Santa.
Sumo Santa. But what was I gonna say? Darn it! See, this is
sorry,
in one ear and out the other, or whatever. What was I getting at? Oh, so here's the bottom line, and this is going to be my mantra for probably the next 6 months to a year, as I create some new friends and I create some enemies in this community. Is that I'm right now where I'm at as far as flat Earth is where I was when I was trying to prove the globe. And I'm going to say something, might get some backlash, but we have no proof that the Earth is flat. There's no scientific proof. We only have observation, optical observation. There's every proof, and I can go, and I'm going to cover some of the really big instrumental ones. They don't prove the Earth is flat, and I'm gonna cover those here right now, tonight. And I know that sounds outlandish, but it's the truth. But we know the globe is a lie. We've proven the globe a lie, and now where I'm at is where I was with the globe. Now I'm trying to prove flat Earth, and I'm also going to give some suggestions tonight on how we can prove the flat Earth.
The Kafka mind trap. Yeah, it's the Kafka mind trap that we get caught in. It means if this, then that. So if the Earth isn't a globe, then it must be flat.
Yeah, and that's what I got in. I was like that for over 15 years. Since 2005, I would say probably 16 years, easily, running around going, it's flat because I can see too far. Just like it's a moronic statement. I'm sorry. I was a moron for 16 years, so here we are, I'm not picking on anybody, but seeing too far is not proof that the Earth is flat. It's not.
Right. Yeah.
And people are going, well, what else is it then, right? That's the next thing. There's going to be people that watch this video going, well, what can it be? What can it be then if it's not flat? Well, and these are the conversations you and I have had. Well, if it's not bowing this way,
we need to start figuring it out.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a deep dive. So stick with me.
Been waiting for this. I'm going to turn my video off so I can watch and people don't see my jaw drop.
Well, what I'm going to say, one thing I want to say here is that over 2,000 years ago, everyone wants to bring up, over 2,000 years ago, the Greeks and the Romans knew that the earth was a ball because Atlas was holding up a globe. Absolutely not true. Atlas was holding up a celestial sphere. And if you look through the historical record, you'll see that they put a globe, they started superimposing a globe on him. Or if they used the celestial sphere, they lied and said that the earth was inside the celestial sphere. So they lied again. Atlas was standing on earth. His feet, you can see his feet on the ground, and he's holding up a celestial sphere. And so, we can't discount all these old accounts and records and manuscripts. And that's actually what Mathew and I have done a lot of. And I have even been translating Latin manuscripts and documents. And I'm not going to pull all those out of the tonight. But I am going to be doing future videos on these. I'm using an OCR is what they call it. I don't know what that stands for. But there's websites online where you can put in documents and it reads the documents and then gives you the text. And now sometimes a lot of these old documents, because they're from 1400s and stuff, 1500s, they're all handwritten in calligraphy. So the OCR can't really read them all perfectly. So that, adds a whole nother mess to it. But we all need to be focusing on distilling the truth from this old occult knowledge that, and we say, I always want to say, when I say occult, I mean hidden. Sometimes people think occult is like, you're going to draw a pentagram on the floor and light candles. That's not what occult means. So I'm going to show you guys tonight what I think the earth realm is. And I want to say that I want to preface it as I keep prefacing everything, but the realm that I'm going to show you matches nature and matches what we see and observe. And it's a natural way of looking at the realm. And it's the opposite. The flat earth, we do not have a natural model. It does not match nature. And again, we're going to be deep diving on all this in future shows. But that's the problem. The globe has the ability, it actually matches nature, but it's turned inside out. It's flipped upside down. So they built a model of the globe as a lie. For who knows, there's a whole number of reasons. That's a whole nother show, right? I think they did it to hide what I'm going to talk about tonight. They did it to hide either for a malevolent or a benevolent reason. They wanted to hide what's in Antarctica. So I'm just going to dive into my presentation now, and let me turn this off. And sorry guys that everything's rough, but anyway, so what I'm calling the world is the world of all, and this is something that I think Mathew helped me come to this realization. For my whole life, I knew there was a higher spirit. I was always spiritual, and I knew there was an intelligent force, if you will. I never really bought into that there's a God and he's looking on me, he's going to judge me and all that stuff. I never did. But I always said we are all one. We're all connected. And so when I was thinking about what would I name the realm, and the realm, I named it World of All. And I put Cosmos on the end just to say the acronym's woke, just to be funny. But World of All. And this painting, this painting, by the way, is for sale right now online for $11,000. Makes me want to start painting. I could have painted this, but this is a Vesica Piscis. And if you don't know what Vesica Piscis is, I'm going to share a video real quick. I'm going to share part of a video that'll start off. Let's see here. Hopefully you guys can hear it. If you can't, let me know.
I'm going to talk about the Vesica Piscis. I remember I was quite astonished by the information I found about the Vesica Piscis throughout my research many years ago, and I would love to share that with you. So stay tuned and follow me.
So what is the Vesica Pisces? The Vesica Pisces is simply two circles of the same diameter overlapped, creating a form in the middle, a geometric form that is called the Vesica Pisces. But I'm going to explain to you why this form is so important
Yeah, Jake,
and
we
how
still just
it
got
came
you.
to
We can't hear
creation.
anything.
So we're
I'm sorry.
Are you playing the video yet?
Yeah, you don't see it?
No, we don't see it or hear it. No, just see you.
Well, there's a lag time on YouTube.
I'm looking at it on Zoom.
Oh. Okay, here we go. Sorry,
There we
guys.
go. There you go.
See, I'm gonna have to spend a full week playing around with this stuff.
about the Vesica Pisces.
We can hear
I
it good.
remember I was quite astonished by the information I found about the Vesica Pisces throughout my research many years ago, and I would love to share that with you. So stay tuned and follow me.
So what is the Vesica Pisces? The Vesica Pisces is simply two circles of the same diameter overlapped, creating a form in the middle, a geometric form that is called the Vesica Pisces. But I'm going to explain to you why this form is so important and how it came to creation.
So we're going to start with a circle, just a plain circle, a two-dimensional circle. Well, as you can imagine, this two-dimensional circle would be a sphere in 3 dimensions, but we're gonna keep it 2D now so we don't get things too complicated. This circle, you can call it either source, God, Om, the One, whatever you want to call it, but I prefer to call it source. Now,
too.
this circle, source, let's imagine it's by itself. It gets bored and it decides to create something to interact with. It decides to move to the boundary of itself and duplicates itself. Boom, let there be light. The Big Bang starts. Now we start to dive into the world of polarity, because we have two circles and not one anymore. One being male and the other female create an offspring in the middle, which we call the Vesica Pisces. So yes, the Vesica Pisces is the womb of the universe. That's where all creation happens. The Vesica Pisces means bladder of the fish in Latin. In ancient times, the Vesica Pisces was used to represent the goddess Venus, as well as the female genitalia. In Christianity, it was associated with the coming of Jesus. It also represented a doorway or portal that intersects the realm of the divine and the
The
material
gateway.
world. Now look at these Christian paintings. They clearly portray Jesus in the middle of the Vesica Pisces. I mean, it could have been a square, it could have been a circle, but no, it's exactly the form of the Vesica Pisces. That just shows us that people knew how sacred this shape was, and they knew the meaning of it. It is also very similar to the first stages of the mitosis. As you can see, during mitosis, one cell divides once to form 2 identical cells. And look at that form. Isn't that very familiar? Yes, it is the Vesica Pisces again. And not only that, the Vesica Pisces represents several shapes that we can find throughout our bodies. And the most common one is, of course, the eye, right? But you can also find the same form in other parts of our bodies.
All right, guys. So, Matthew, I would like you to chime in on the Christianity aspect to that. It's here in a little bit. I'm going to go over it again, but I think you might have something to say to that, to lend to that conversation on that. But so my next slide is 2 bubbles, perfectly captured, connected together, and this is what I think where we live. We live in one of the bubbles, and there's many more bubbles. But the top bubble in this picture, for example, would be the vault of heaven and the upper realm, and that is beyond Antarctica. This is a dipole, electromagnetic dipole, and this again is representative of the energy fields that are flowing through the Earth, coming up from underneath the Earth, out and up to the moon, and I'll get into that as well. It goes, the energy field goes to the moon, and then cycles back from the sun and back down again. And I'm going to explain that. But this is a couple. This is a couple pretty famous monuments: the Washington Monument and the Vatican. And these monoliths are pointing up at the Vesica Piscis, at the point of the energy or the source, where the light, as Mathew calls it, comes from. This is the pyramidion, which this is the Washington Monument, and this is the pattern that it displays on the ground.
And that's crazy. I've never seen anything. I've never seen that before. That's, to me, all the shapes. Wow.
Well, all of this sacred geometry ties together, and if you guys have seen my backdrop, this is a video. I'm going to put the lady's channel in the show notes or description. I think she's Jewish. I don't know for sure, but she is just pouring on the heavy gravy on her channel. I took about 12 of her videos about all the sacred geometry, and I just chopped all of my favorite parts out and scrunched them together and sped them up and threw them on the backdrop. And this all comes back to what I was saying about our realm should match nature and the geometry. And this, for instance, shoot.
Let me interject really quick.
Yeah.
Would that not kind of harmonize with the concept of fractal realm?
Well, yeah, for sure. And so this is something I giggled when I saw this. MasterCard, right? MasterCard, and if you're in a Spanish country, it's Maestro card, and they've got a different color, but yeah, they know. And a lot of companies are using the Vesica Piscis in their logos. And I mean, once you go down the rabbit hole of Vesica Piscis, sacred geometry, you will literally, I mean, you can spend days and days. I've got thousands and thousands of documents, pictures, ancient manuscripts, all tying back. And, well, this is what I wanted to ask you about, Mathew. The Jesus fish is the center of the Vesica Piscis. How did that happen? Do you have any answer for it?
Well, how did that come? Well, so that's a really big question.
I know.
I'm going to give you my knowledge of it's called the Ictus in Christianity. And
how do you spell that?
What Ictus, I think it's ICKTHUS or TUS. I can't. It's been years since I've looked at the words. But what I was taught that it was is that it was a symbol that was it was sort of like silent secret communication, so Christians could identify other Christians, or one of them they would come up and they would make half of the symbol in the dirt with their foot, and then somebody else would finish the symbol in the dirt with their foot. If this is true and what you're saying is true, it actually makes sense to me, to the fact that I do believe that during the Council of Nicaea, Christianity, see, my thought and belief about the event on Golgotha and what we call the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, there's some truth to that, but I think the personification of it is partially where some of the deception lies, because I think it's more of a consciousness than it was more of a conscious stream that was spread out to man than it was an actual event of somebody that lived 33 years and preached not to have extramarital sex. And do you know what I'm saying? And so that makes sense. It harmonizes with the fact that it is basically people that now all of a sudden have knowledge that they're not supposed to have. And the keepers of that knowledge are trying to clean that up and trying to kill them and say, no, we're going after you people and keeping you from having this knowledge, having this understanding, because, like you said, it could be for a malevolent or a benevolent reason. We don't know. But
well, I'm going to share a benevolent idea that I have.
They sure as hell fed them to lions.
Here.
They sure, and then during the Council of Nicaea, Constantine just came in and co-opted Christianity, tore it up, said this is what it is. It's now official, and you guys need to shut the fuck up and do what we say. And that's where the Catholic Church comes out of that. The Jesuits come out of that.
There's no quick answer to any question, is there?
Quick answer to that, but it's very, very, very. We could do hours of a show on that. Absolutely.
Well, here's the bottom line, everyone, and we talked about this, Matthew. We wanted to go rapid fire on the show, but I'm not feeling any rapid fire energy right now, obviously. But I'm so tired. But we cannot go into every aspect, and because this show would be a 24-hour show. So we're going to say some things that are going to make you go, why does Jake think that? He's got to be crazy, or Matthew think that. And all I can say is tune back in, turn the bell on, and watch. I'm going to have a show based on every aspect, and I'm going to be pumping videos out every day, multiple videos a day. Because I've been working on the content so long now, right, Matthew, that I'm going to be able to start putting that out and breaking things down better. But we can't do that all in this show. But the symbology of the Vesica Piscis is in so many logos. I can't even touch on them all. And this is another example of it. You've got the heavens above, the vault of heaven, and then I should have put a little censored thing on the guy on the left there. But this you'll see what I mean here. But basically, I don't want to say I had a vision, but I had multiple lucid dreams in a meditative state over the course of at least 6 months, where I was telling Matthew about what I experienced every morning, every afternoon. I'd be like, Matthew, I saw this or I saw that. And Matthew's like, you know what this is? That's spiritual science, is what he kept saying to me. It's spiritual science, Jake. And when I would lay down every night, I would have a productive, it wouldn't be a wasteful sleep like I was just in La La Land. I would literally go to work. I would say, well, I want to learn about this, or I want to focus on this aspect. And I would wake up and have it figured out, or be closer to figuring it out, because I was able to, in my dream state, I was able to do way more than I can in my meat suit. I know that sounds weird, but in my meat suit, I'm limited. I have distractions. I have the cat and the dog and the kids and everything. But when I'm in my dream state, I was able to figure things out and actually test things and work things out. And this is something that I constantly saw, was the vault of heaven. And I told Matthew this, I don't remember how long ago it was, that I thought the firmament that divides the waters from the waters and all of that, and I'm not a Christian, I've never have been, I'm non-denominational, always have been, I've always been agnostic theist. I know there's some kind of intelligent force, but I've never picked a religion, because every religion has something I didn't like about it. But I thought, if there's a firmament, it's a force field, call it whatever you want. But I think the firmament is the underside of Earth, and it goes up, all the way up, and keeps going beyond Antarctica. So the vault of heaven also is a firmament. So the second realm is the continuation of that firmament, and it's all the outside, the deep void, whatever you want to call it. There's waters outside, and we are in this realm that's surrounded by waters. And I'm going to explain why I think this here coming up in one of my next slides. I don't know. I'm still, my mind's boggled over this whole thing. But if you look at all the cathedrals, all the vaulted domes, and all the Congress and everywhere else, churches, you name it, they show angels and Jesus and whoever looking down. and they always show a cross, and I think that represents a crossing point or crossing over. It's a gateway, and that's what Antarctica has, and that's why it's being kept from us. And I'm going to get into that. But one of the major symbols that we see, and not just in Jewish religion, is the Seal of Solomon, they call it, or the Star of David. There's other names for it. Rothschild used this symbol a lot. But I think the reason they use this symbol a lot, the importance in the symbol, is the makeup of this realm, and I want to say the fractal nature of it. But this shape lines up perfect with the sun and the moon cycles, the equator, the true equator, not the fake equator, which I'm going to go into here. And so many of you guys have probably heard of Admiral Byrd, and I'm being cute here, but Admiral Byrd and Operation Fishbowl. Now, what's funny about it is that we live in a fishbowl. I mean, literally the shape that we have access to, that we can actually traverse on, and I'll try to explain this in the coming slides. That's why they called it Operation Fishbowl, is because of the shape of the Earth, where it meets the upper realm. And the upper realm is a whole nother dimension. And so if you see here on this slide, this is the equator, and it's going to be hard for some people to get visually grasp this. This is why I'm using Blender. I'm doing a 3-dimensional version of this in Blender with light sources, shading on the moon, and everything. So the moon, the way the moon gets a crescent moon and all that. It's not because of the Earth. It's not like that. We know that's a lie, right? I mean, that's the globe bullshit. But I'm building this out in Blender, and if anyone watches this video and they're good at Blender, please get a hold of me, because you could help me a lot, and we could get this done a lot faster. I'll figure it out eventually. I'm pretty good at these things, but it all takes time. But that's the equator, and the tilt of the Earth. The reason there's a tilt is to hide what's in Antarctica. So let me go to the next slide here. Let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. See, now I have to apologize. My slides are out of order a little bit.
Can I ask you really quick
yeah.
What do you mean by the tilt of the Earth? What we're told is the
what we're told is the tilt is bullshit.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
The reason they tilted the Earth was because to hide what's in Antarctica. If they did the Southern Pole at the true Southern Pole, which I don't believe any of us can ever get to a Southern Pole, but if they did, it would screw everything up. So they tilted it, and I'm going to prove it to you here in the next couple slides. Okay, but this is the angle, the degrees, the 23.4 degrees that they talk about, the 6.6 is the degrees that the sun travels between the winter and summer solstice, is 23.4 north, 23.4 south. That's the degrees that the sun travels on the equator. And this point here, I don't know if you guys can see this, my mouse is really tiny. This is where the equator is, and it lines up perfectly with this star. So Antarctica, by the way, a lot of people don't know this either. Antarctica starts at the 66.6 degree south. Again, all has to do with the reason they tilted. I also want to point out in my diagram here, at the top you see the light shining down, and at the bottom you see the aurora borealis, the northern lights. So the northern lights, which I don't like calling it north, I still think of it as south because it's down and we're at the bottom. So again, I tell everyone they flip everything upside down, inside out, and backwards. I think they purposely said it was north when it actually is south. It's down. But The aurora borealis lights are the visible lights that we see, but there are lights all around the Earth, no matter what latitude you're on, that are flowing up through the Earth, up into the moon, and the moon is an emanation of those lights. And I was telling Mathew this the other day. It's like an X-ray image, and it's like a gamma radiation and all that. The radiation is flowing through the Earth, and it's flowing up to a central point where it's being sent back to the sun and coming back down. And that energy, that force field, is emanating into a point in the atmosphere where we think of it as a physical thing. But this is why the moon looks so weird. The moon doesn't look like anything in nature because it's not nature. It's literally the bones of Earth. The moon is an X-ray of Earth. And I'm going to skip ahead. I told you my slides are out of order because I didn't totally get prepared. Trying to get ready for all of this, but oh my goodness. Did you know there was a time where before they realized that radiation was harmful, that they literally, doctors just held up a film and they could see a person's bones by holding up a film? I mean, but this is, I put this slide together to show that the X-ray, the energy field, as it's coming around outside of Earth and it's flowing up through Earth, it can be slowed down. It's at a higher spectrum when it comes through and we don't see it around us. But when it gets up to the uppermost place in the center of the realm, it hits where it emanates as the moon. It's slowed down by the time it bounces back to us. It's a reflection back to us. And so it's no longer a higher spectrum and we see it with our eyes. But it's like the bones. And I have a way that I believe I'm going to be able to prove this. And just hang tight. You might think that's crazy, but when I show you what I'm going to show you, you're going to be, I think, blown away. So let me back up. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so I want to talk about this
real quick before you move on past.
Go ahead.
I think it's an interesting point to bring up that NASA is kind of interjecting X-rays of space into some of their garbage right now, and so that's not, that's harmonizing. That's in keeping with the inversion tactic.
Well, NASA's going to be what I'm going to show you. The evidence that I think I have for my thought that the moon, we live on the dark side of the moon, just like Pink Floyd says, see you on the dark side of the moon. We live on the dark side of the moon. I said that to Josh from Iron Realm Media a few weeks ago, and he's like, what? I'm gonna show you how I think that. Now, it's the force field coming up, and well, real quick, I'll just say this. The moon, people are running around for, I don't know, a few years now saying the moonlight cools. I have never thought moonlight cooled. Moonlight does not cool. The thought that that the light can shine on you and cool you, to me, has always been nonsensical. It didn't make sense in my head. So what I always said was, the moon is absorbing energy.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, I think it's important to also say we understand why people have come to that conclusion. They go, things in the moonlight are cool, so they think the moonlight cools. Right, but they don't realize it's an inversion. It's possible, and the theory that you're putting forth, which I tend to agree with, is that it's drawing the energy up. It's part of the cycle of the essence of the flow of the energy that's coming through the realm, and it's drawing it up, and that's why it seems like it cools, and it also seems like it illuminates because it's a focal point of illumination of that same light that actually came into the realm from what we think the sun is, but really is actually existing here anyway. Is that through?
Right. You and I talked about this a few weeks ago, that when you're standing in the full moon light, you can put an umbrella over your head and you'll warm up by like 10 to 15 degrees. And if it's 60 degrees out, 10 to 15 degrees warmer makes a difference. So, and I've done this. So just shade yourself on a full moon night. And so we talked about this, the energy field, that when you see yourself glowing, you think you're glowing because the light's coming down. It's not the case. You're glowing because the energy's coming through you and out and up.
Right.
And this is the ether. This is what people don't, science doesn't want to admit exists. So, sorry guys, I'm so tired. This slide I'm on right now. Oh, okay. I want to circle back to this. I started to mention it. So the aurora borealis is the most focused focus point of the energy field. And think of this as two toroidal fields on top of one another, separate realms, separate dimensions that are connected like a bubble and overlapping each other. Okay. But one is all light and the other one is light that we can't see. So if you're a being or an angel, we'll call it whatever you want, someone who's transcended up to the upper realm, which I do believe is possible, you see what you see as light could be dark to us down here. So there's always this, it's as above, so below. But I'm depicting what we would see if we walked in there. It would just be total light. The entire realm would be so light, so bright. And people don't realize this, it would be freezing cold. It would be super light and freezing cold. Like sub-zero, I don't even know how low the temperature it would be. And so the light, the force field that's coming from that side of that realm, and it's flowing in the same way that the moonlight is coming up from under the earth, and it's flowing up, and it's coming up to that central focus point where we see the moon. Now, the reason I put the degrees on here was to explain that these aren't really real, true 360-degree degrees. They put these degrees on the earth when they tilted it. They just arbitrarily took the miles, which the miles is 24,900 miles, and they divided it up into 180 and 180. So they divided it up into 360 and called it a sphere, but it wasn't connected. It was 180 on one side tilted out, 180 on the other side tilted out, and where the 90th degree is where the two realms meet. And this, I also believe, is why there's a vector symbology in all fake space agencies, because that's the vector point where if you go out beyond Antarctica far enough, you come to the other realm where it's meeting. I'm sorry. I think this is going to blow your mind. I'm going to show it to you right now. So this is the Milky Way. The Milky Way is where the two realms are meeting, and these are two-dimensional diagrams. These are by no means what you like. It's very confusing because it is just a 2D diagram. In the ancient days, they would just have to draw all this out on paper and try to make it make sense, and that's why all these old drawings are so confusing, right? Because they're just drawing it out on with pen and parchment. But I'm trying to give you a visualization here. Now, this is what I think is going to blow your mind. Everyone thinks the Milky Way, the ecliptic, is at an angle from the Earth. And it's not. The tilt of the Earth, the fake tilt, and I've measured it all out. I have it all, and I'm going to do a whole video on this. The ecliptic of the Milky Way is perfectly aligned to the center of the realm we inhabit, and it lines up, and it's the touching of both realms meeting together. And that could even be where the light source is actually emanating from. But if you look up, if you just Google Milky Way, where do you see it directly above you? You see it 30 degrees south of the equator is where the Milky Way is directly above. And it just so happens that works out to where it's directly even in line and matches up with all of the Star of David, Seal of Solomon, whatever you want to call it. It lines up perfectly, geometrically with that. Now, I don't know where this patch came from. This is a patch that I found online, and it says a lot. So it mentions the angles, and in the eye, it's mentioning the Vesica Piscis. It's also mentioning the star, the energy coming from above, and the moon. And the moon, crescent moon, if you look at a lot of ancient drawings and everything, the moon is always at the bottom, and it's shaped like a crescent. And I'm going to show you, here's another image. This is the Earth. We are inside the moon, inside the back side of the moon. We live in the dark side of the moon. And the upper part is the sun, where we get the source. I call it the source. I like this, calling it the source. Here's another image. This is in Kabbalistic teachings. And as you can see here, the stars are under a canopy or something to that effect. I believe that this image is depicting where the upper realm, the realm of heaven, is touching the celestial sphere in our realm. So the two are touching and connecting. And then, as I said before, Atlas, if you guys research Atlas, he was always holding up a celestial sphere, and all celestial navigation was done based on knowing that there was a sphere of stars above us. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of proofs of, and actually I don't have them in these slides, but
standing on a flat Earth holding up a sphere.
Well, no, I don't think it's flat. I mean, I do still think it's flat, but I don't have proof of flat. I have proof that it's not flat and not a globe. So I'm going to get into that. Another thing, another little I did a little diagram here. We've got the moon and the sun directly over the equator. Remember, the equator is at the bottom right and left points of that star. And what I did on this diagram, I overlaid the Marco Rodin vector-based mathematics, and the void, or the center point of that mathematics that he uses for creating his spheroidal. I'm lost for words right now, but that would be a black hole, basically. Not like a black hole like science tells us, but it would be a point where light couldn't get through. It would just it would just keep going inward and inward on itself, infinitely inward, to where it's black to our eyes. And this, I believe, is what's causing the moon eclipses and solar eclipses, is this center point. And this is a whole nother video. I told you it's going to be kind of a stream of consciousness, and I'm going to have to expand on this.
You're doing good. Just give a nutshell right now, because it's just too much to.
I know.
It's too much. Yeah, we like you said, 24 hours. We can do this nonstop.
So this is another old picture. Humanity's in the earth. Christ is the fish, right? The Jesus fish, and God, or the source, is what I call it, is in an upper realm. I believe you can't really ever get to the source. Or if you could, I mean, I have no idea what it would take. I mean, you literally, and I don't have any slides on this, but I've read a lot about old ancient cosmologies, and they believe there were 7 ceilings with, Saturn. Saturn was the uppermost top ceiling. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And that's going to be a whole nother video. Let's see here. Oh, in the Vesica Piscis, there is the There's so much geometry you can pull from this. And I've gotten out the pen and paper and compass, and I've recreated all of these, and it's so much fun. I actually bought an antique set from an antique store. These are silver plated, they stink, but you can get the square root of 1 square root, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can get oh shoot, you'll see in the next slides here. This is some jewelry. This is another one I liked, I found online. Here's an example of the Vesica Piscis, the fish, and the all-seeing eye.
I think that's the Ark of the Covenant, by the way. The one that you just showed before, the little...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the Ark of the Covenant, yeah. Is that okay? Do you think there's something to it? That if what I'm saying is true, could that be something that's true?
Well, I tend to view...
Hiding the Ark of the Covenant? So
I tend to view the depiction of angels as the their musical. It's actually the depiction of the sonic vibration of the energy that's flowing through us. That's
the 7 trumpets, the sounds of thunder.
Exactly. I tend to view the angels as you know, they always want to personify the spiritual ideas because it makes it easier to understand in an exoteric fashion. But the esoteric belief or the occult hidden belief takes the personification away and looks at the actual element that's creating it. And so, like as in my presentation, when I showed, talked about how the frequency creates shape and has information in it, and also affects the water and shapes the water. And that's kind of what I think the firmament is continually being created. I think that the depiction of the angels is actually showing that frequency that's doing the same thing, that's pushing that.
Effed up world, effed up worlds in the chats, and hey, effed up world, so happy you're here to see these crazy animals talking like this, a bunch of nonsense. But yeah, we want to hear what you think about what we're saying or what I'm saying. And I'd love getting your input just as much as I want to hear Mathew's, because you both of you guys are more involved in these aspects. And I don't want to be called a Satanist or a weirdo or anti-Christian, because I'm not. And I'm just pointing out some things that are occult knowledge. And I'd like to see what effed up world. I'd like to have you on our show sometime. I think Mathew and I talked about it. It'd be great. But yeah.
Yeah, can we give a quick shout out to just everybody in the chat?
Yeah, Josh is here too.
And Josh and Effed Up World and Doc Michael was telling a story about how
I love Doc Michael.
Yeah,
dude, he doesn't have a wrench yet. What's going on?
I don't know.
Doc, forgive me. What the hell am I thinking here? Oh, I can't do it. Shit, I got to do it on another. Sorry, guys. I'm cussing.
Oh, that's okay. But,
okay, I'm giving Doc a wrench. Guys, we could literally talk for 20 hours straight on every one of these. We could deep dive on every aspect. And
please don't hate us if our ideas say something contrary. Just talk to us. I mean,
tell us, hey, no, you're crazy, and here's why.
Because I think the point that we're trying to get about, when Jake was talking about the moonlight cooling, and it's not actually cooling, it's drawing energy up. When somebody says that the earth is flat, I completely agree and completely understand why and how we can come to that conclusion. And right. I think that it makes sense to come to that conclusion. It may be completely true, but that depiction of flat earth that you see on Google, all the garbage that the false dichotomy tries to put out about it, is still hiding some very relevant, in my opinion and Jake's opinion, very relevant, very true keys to our world, and things that I think if we know, we're empowered by knowing them. And that's why we're doing this. We're certainly didn't put as much work into this as we have to come out and just like try to piss people off and tell them that we think they're wrong, because that's not what we're trying to do at all.
You made me think of something really important, and I skipped this slide. So because they did the fake tilt, Okay, they did the fake tilt to hide all the extra land and beyond the 90th degree, the fake 90th degree. I was able to calculate the extra miles based on, which I guess I probably need to do a whole nother video on this, but basically I lined up the Milky Way, which it's straight flat across the realm. It's not on a tilt separate from us. And then we have a fake tilt, and the fake tilt is the vector point between both realms, upper and lower realm. And so when you add it all up, it's 37,350 miles. And the actual circumference of the border of Antarctica, I have not calculated yet. I still need to do that. That was one of the things on my list today. But at the 90th degree, the circumference is 24,900 miles. So the circumference of Antarctica at the 90th degree is 24,900 miles. And then all the land and ice or glaciers before that, starting at the fake 66.6 degrees south, I have to measure that. But it's basically where I'm at right now is that the Earth is 37,350 miles concave. And I'm still a flat earther. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be taken out of context. But this is the theory that I'm throwing out because it makes the most sense, and I'm going to show you proof. Keep showing you proofs. But I've got a couple scientific tests that have been done that we've never done on flat, and we must do to end this argument once and for all. This is a record that came out. I thought it was funny. World Container is the record, Contents Under Pressure. And it's a Vesica Pisces. It's not a bad album. This is some Kabbalah stuff. As above, so below. Yin yang. The snake eating itself is... I want to mention that I was telling you earlier that I think that the moon energy comes through the Earth, presents an X-ray of the bones of the Earth. So that's why we see the pitting. Oh, I need to get into that. So all the craters on the moon tie directly to the Earth, and I'm going to break that down. But the energy field goes up to the moon, comes back through the sun, and the energy, the source, meets the hydrogen. Hydrogen's the most abundant element on Earth, and it's constantly coming out of everything we do, breathing, everything. Fires, you name it. Hydrogen's coming out of everything. Hydrogen's going up, and it's the lightest element. It's the most abundant element. So what happens is that the hydrogen goes up, 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 and it gets to the very upper, wherever it gets to, however high it is, 3,000 miles, whatever you want to say. It gets up there and meets the source energy, and that's where the plasma, that's where the sun, the burning, the energy, the fireball is the hydrogen is always burning. And when the hydrogen burns, the output of hydrogen byproduct is water. So as the moon and the sun, this energy field is going around, everything's connected, nothing's separate. The sun is literally a direct energetic connection. So is the moon, give and a take. The sun burns the hydrogen, which the output is water. And that the tides then are ebbing and flowing in the oceans because Antarctica that surrounds the top of the fishbowl we're in, the water is coming out in waves around. So the sun burns the hydrogen and puts water out, and that's why modern science says, "Oh, the moon causes the tides." That's complete bullshit. We all know that, right? We know that's bullshit. This is my theory, and I haven't heard a better theory because I know the hydrogen's being burnt by the sun. I just feel that in my bones. It's going up. It's the highest, most element that gets up there. There's a fire going on. How's it lasting forever? Well, it's always cycling. It turns into water. It comes back down, and that's why there's tides. So that's my thought on that. Prove me wrong. If you start looking at a ton of old Jesus paintings and everything else, they always depict the Vesica Piscis, and even old manuscripts. And I've been going through and getting bad pictures and having to use a Google reverse image search to find the better images. And this is one I didn't find a better image of yet. But there's so much out there. Like I said, once you go down the Vesica Piscis rabbit hole, you could spend weeks on it. This is a topic I wanted to touch on, Matthew. I told you this. Christians, for a long time, being a person who was a flat earther, or is a flat earther, was always trying to find a way to get people to pay attention, right? So if somebody told me they were Christian, I was like, oh, good, because the Bible's a flat earth book, because the circle of earth and the face of the earth, and God couldn't see everybody on the face of the earth if it was a globe, and then of course you get, well, he's God. He can see around a globe, right? So you have all these arguments. Well, it was all nonsensical, because if the earth is a fishbowl, is like a bubble, two bubbles connected, then, and the source is at the center, then it is a circle encircling you, circular circumference around you, and you can look around and see everything. So I wanted to point that out. Did you have anything to chime in on that? Because the next slide's really good.
I mean, I can't add anything to it. I'm trying to. It's. I feel very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to have some, conversations leading up to this with you about some of this content. So I have had some time to really kind of let it sit with me a little bit. Because it's amazing.
I hope I'm not butchering her name, but I think her name's Mary Baker Eddy. She was a famous Christian science person. And there's a Mary Baker Eddy library. And in the library, they have lights in the ceiling that are Saturn. They have compasses in the hardwood on the floor. And they have this giant stained glass room that you can go into, and on a glass walkway, and see the inside of the earth. And I can't ignore this coincidence. And I grew up with my great-great-grandma was Christian Science. My grandmother was a Christian Scientist. My great-great-grandma, she was born in 1892. She ran a library, Christian Science library. I had family that were all in the Freemasons and Job's Daughters. The girls were in Job's Daughters and all that. When I was a little kid, I didn't know what any of that stuff meant. And what's up with this? How come Saturn isn't a Christian library? How come there's a concave Earth in a Christian library? I mean, it's just makes you wonder, right? I also want to recommend everyone go find Ken Wheeler's books. You can find Ken Wheeler's books for free if you look hard enough, all of them. I recommend. Ken Wheeler's books are badass. And these are just some things about dipoles. And again, back to the bubble. I'm going to go back for people who just got on here. But that's
Jake,
like the most perfect union.
Looking at the chat, Hippie Shake had a question that you might want to. She said, so basically, her question was, so basically we are living on a flat eye shape or a fish shape. Then is that what you're saying? Which I told her I don't think that's quite what you're saying, but I thought you might want to.
Yeah, well, I feel like I don't want to make excuses. It is because I'm tired, somewhat, but I get ahead of myself, and I'm sorry about that. But basically what I'm saying is that we could easily be living on the inside of Earth, and the firmament is below our feet, however many miles, and when you go up beyond Antarctica, it continues up, and it is the vault of heaven. And then inside of all of that is a celestial sphere. And the celestial sphere, and that's what this picture's for, is where the celestial sphere is meeting the other celestial sphere. And I got other diagrams I've done. I just don't have them in these slides.
Yeah, the eye shape for hippie shake's sake, that is where this lower realm crosses over with the upper realm, or heaven, we might want to call it, or one of the upper realms.
Right.
That's the point of the depictions of Christ inside the Vesica Pisces, is that Christ is how the Christ spirit, that's, according to Christianity, is how you will be given access to the upper realm. And that's why, like, Christ is in the center of it. But it's interesting that you say that too, Jake, because one of the it makes me think of the 1958 Encyclopedia Britannica that says that there's a dome at 13,000 feet above Antarctica, and flights confirm that, and then that dome would just continue to go up, higher and higher. But it would, a lot of times, if you're looking at the Earth as being flat, or at the Earth as being a globe, and then you say there's a dome 13,000 feet above Antarctica, then you're like, well, hell, I fly at 30,000 feet. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's a lie. We know that's a lie. We know that's not true. But that actually could be true. It could absolutely be true.
It's
something that we perceive as such, of something that has been perceived as such.
So let me go back here to previous image here. So if you see the darker blue center, which is an eyeball shape, that's the overlap. That's where the two bubbles actually, if you were to look inside a bubble, the upper realm is transitioning into the lower realm, and the lower realm, which is Earth, is transitioning into the upper realm. And there's a transition point on the right hand side here, right and left. Okay, and this is I believe this is why the space agencies use the vector image in their logos, is because you come to a point where it's like you're on the ground looking up, and then the other realm is coming to a pinch point, and that's the vector. And when they decided they wanted to go to the moon, they started faking space to fund trying to break through that, to get through it. And that's why they've got all these people saying, well, there's a sky ice and everything else. So if you look at two conjoined bubbles, or human cells or anything, they literally have on the inside, there's an opposite. The bubble is continuing into the inside of the other. Right. And this is throughout the So what I found out is the Vesica Pisces is the core of sacred geometry. Everything starts there. All the sacred geometry all comes back to the Vesica Pisces. And you got to wonder why. And when you start doing things like I've spent a couple months just drawing all these and measuring it, everything just all comes together in harmony. And this is what I said when I started the video, is that the globe matches nature. It all these things work with the globe, but it put us on the outside. It's turned us inside out and flipped us sideways and for no reason, and hid Antarctica because they didn't want us to know. But it still matched nature. We don't have a flat earth model that matches nature. The only thing, and I'll have people yelling at me in the chats going, all I need to know is it's flat. That matches nature. It's what I see. No, when you look at the entire big picture of everything, we don't have a flat earth model that matches nature.
It matches perception, and it's limited. It limits you. So this is where you have to have spirituality and science together, because because if you don't, then you are limited to your lower five senses. And I will argue until my death that our intuitive sense of creation is valid and has to be accessed and needs to be accessed, even if it's just done on an individual basis. It should be, because we ought to be able to talk about those experiences with each other and those insights with each other, just as we can just as easily talk about the leaves on a tree being green and just as valid as such.
I meant, I have so many things planned to say for this, but I said it in the beginning. I'm a flat earther, just as much as I was a globe earther. And all I've done is come to the realization that I don't have a proof of flat. I do not have a scientific proof of flat. And I think I'm not the only one out there. And I'm seeing people hinting around, and I'm seeing people even like on Globebusters saying, we have to be careful. We don't want to get lumped in with Lord Stephen Christopher. And that guy, I believe, this is put my tinfoil hat on. It's the most idiotic thing I've ever seen, and the most idiotic person I've ever seen. And there might be something to it, especially since when you Google concave Earth, guess who comes up? The Lord Stephen Christopher idiot, dipshit. And so what I'm saying about the 37,000 plus miles circumference, it becomes so much bigger. And coupled with all the other things I'm going to bring up about our proofs, it looks flat. There's no way to know. Now, of course, it's not a globe. We know that. But it's so big and convex, or concave, it could be, that it's so minute over any distance that we can see with telescopes or anything, that it appears optically flat. But I'm going to go over a couple things we can do to solve this. But before I move forward, I want to mention something. So I was talking about earlier with the moon. I'm thinking that we might live on the dark side of the moon, and that's why we only ever see one side, is because the energy comes up from all through the Earth. Like if you were to superimpose a yin yang, right? So we're in this big bubble, and all the energy comes up and goes to. I think Ken Wheeler wrote about this in one of his books, actually, called it Plato's Cave or something weird. I don't know. But all the energy comes up, goes up to the moon. And here's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, and I'm not kidding when I say it's lining up, but I don't have a 3D model done yet to show it. But what I'm going to tell you is that all the impact craters on Earth are not impact craters. They are dead geysers from when there was a flood. And I'm even throwing this out. I threw this out on Iron Realm. I think I did. Lining up stars, constellations, with major impact craters, not really impact craters, on Earth. And what I'm seeing, and this is this is just a crazy theory. This is where I'm heading. In old religious texts, ancient man believed that the stars somehow came down and met geysers during the flood, or when the flood started. And I'm sure Matthew's cringing, but I'm thinking that the stars are an energy emanation of a vortex field coming up from all over the bones of the Earth, and they're all emanating into the sky. And this is why, and I haven't done it yet, but they're lining up, guys. I'm lining up major constellations with craters on the moon and the sun and the Earth. And I found that NASA already has 2 websites up explaining why craters on Earth match the craters on the moon. So they're already getting ready to fight us on this. What I'm going to hopefully prove or not prove is that, or disprove, is that all the craters on the moon line up with the supposed impact craters on Earth. And those are what's happening is the energy field is flowing through the Earth. It's like an X-ray. And we're seeing the moon is an X-ray image of the bones of Earth, basically. And all those craters are the underside of Earth, or within the Earth. And they're not craters. They're just points where water pushed through. And I have another theory about how the water geysers happened. and this is, we talked about this, Matthew. I think we touched on this on Iron Realm, is that I don't want to constantly be, there's a malevolent reason that they're hiding Antarctica. I don't want to be the guy always going around, they just want to hide it from us for all these bad reasons, right? Part of me wants to believe that there's a benevolent reason, and I think the benevolent reason is that mankind actually got enough technology at some point that we were sending electricity out through the air, building towers, sending radio waves, and something happened to disrupt and cause a plasma discharge event and caused our downward force to be turned off. And when it caused the downward force to be turned off, the waters outside of our Earth realm pushed in and gushed up and caused the flood. And if you look at all these impact craters, not all of them, but many of them, you'll see where the soil is washed away around them. The soil and the rock are washed away around them. And then you can compare these huge impact craters, which are not impact craters, to small dead geysers, and they look the same. So that's where the mud flood came from, was these geysers burst forth. They were coming back down, and they were raining and washing all the mud, all the soil, topsoil away down to the rock. And that's how the mud flood happened. So that's my theory on that. Matthew, what do you want to say to that?
Well, actually, I had to text Josh after we did Iron Realm Friday night and say, yeah, it took me a while to let it sit with me, but I agree with because he'd brought something up similar to that too. And I kind of, and I had to say I kind of agree with him. Yeah, now he was bringing it up, in context, I think, with the Tower of Babel, if I remember correctly, which I don't know. I think chronologically that they're two different events.
I haven't even got to the scientific test yet, Josh. But, I'm gonna get to it.
But yeah, I can't argue with that. Right now, it's an interesting theory. If I could, I would. I mean, if I were throwing my chair across my living room and yelling and stomping, I would have myself muted.
Okay, let's get into it because Josh is bringing it up. Okay. There's two experiments that have been done that need done again in 2022 or 2023. Two major experiments to test the sphericity or convexity or whatever concavity of the Earth. Yep. The first one I want to talk about is the Tamarack mine shaft experiment. They did this experiment, I don't know, half a dozen times. They did it with steel, brass, rope, cotton. They did it all these different strings. What they did was they dropped a plumb bob down almost 5,000 feet into a mine shaft. Pardon me. Sorry about that. And if the Earth was a ball, the lines as they dropped down would come together. If the Earth was concave, they would diverge. If the Earth was flat, they would just be the same distance apart at the bottom. And what they found in the first time they did it in one shaft, and they did the lines next to each other, and it diverged by 8.5 inches, like almost 5,000 feet down, which means that the center of gravity is what they called it, but it's just the center of the downward force, would have had to be in 4,000 miles up into the air and at a point, which meant the Earth was concave. So they did that multiple times, different metal, string, brass, and they said, well, maybe it's the lining of the walls is like magnetic, right? So then they went to whole nother location into another mine shaft that had two shafts, and they dropped it down again almost 5,000 feet. And then at the bottom of the shaft, there was a connecting shaft. And again, they diverged by 8.5, it was 8.5 inches at 4,900 some feet, which means that the Earth, the center point for the downward force, is over 4,000 feet in the sky, which means the Earth isn't flat or convex. So that's one experiment. And Just so happens I was doing some research to see about, I was going to try to raise money for this, and all these mine shafts are owned by universities now. So what do you think the odds are that a university is going to let us do this experiment again? So that's one experiment that's never failed to prove the Earth is not convex or flat. It's always shown concavity. And I don't buy the bullshit about, well, it was too close to the wall or they're too close to each other. It makes absolutely zero sense to me, and I can deep dive into that in another video on why it doesn't make sense, that all these little excuses they come up with. The next experiment is what Brian Mullins mentioned, was he called it the force the line. It was the rectilineator experiment. In that experiment, they had people from the Copernican Society, people who believed the Earth was a ball, who were there and watched it for days and days. They went out, they came back, they forced the line all the way there and back. They did everything, they jumped through all the hoops that everybody wanted. And again, they proved that the Earth was concave. Now, we don't have any experiment like this, and I know Josh put in the comments that you can't prove it. There's no measurable way. I just told you there's 2 ways that we can prove the shape with actual scientific tests that no one's willing to repeat or talk about. What say you, Matthew?
Well, I mean, when you're talking about things that people don't like talking about or don't like bringing up or they're not willing to repeat, I definitely see merit in a few things, on my own. But that's, I mean, those are tough things to accept, and so I mean corporately, just to kind of discuss them, it changes it changes your paradigm. But yeah, the plumb bob experiment and the rectilineator experiment, I mean, we could redo the rectilineator experiment if we could raise the
grab a shovel. Nemo says grab a shovel.
Yeah, we could redo the rectilineator, and you've brought this up before, and everybody should want to do that. Flat earthers should want to do that. Globe earthers should want to do that. NASA should want to do that. Are you kidding? NASA should want to do the rectilineator experiment. Like they don't want, you can't, again, to the fact that NASA claims that the globe is 24,000 miles around at its equator. They don't want you to know how to do like basic math to figure out what you should be able to observe. And I mean, and you can't, it's insane, but like, there's a lot of things that fight against people when it comes to all of that, as far as, and it's something that we need to get into as well. And you brought this up on our IRM again, the frequencies that they pump into the world, against us. The other night we had a big storm here and the power went out, and it was interesting. It was Friday night, and it was after we had got done talking about the power grid and the frequencies, and the effect that they have. Then the power went out and the grid went down right around me. And all of a sudden, everything was silent, and I was half asleep, half awake, and I took note that I could feel like this like static energy just kind of drop when the grid went down too. I could like literally feel it, and considering how that might be affecting what we see, what we think, our train of thought, all of that to me. I would say that there's a very elaborate system put together to hide these very basic things, that if it all went down, we would come back to that conclusion as a human race. We would come back to those conclusions pretty quickly. Within less than probably 5 years, we would all completely have a totally different view of our world, 100%. And it would be a lot more correct. And there would be a lot of problems, fake problems that we have that would be solved. But then, again, like you said too, like you're proposing the question that there might be a benevolent reason. The reason I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, because I think that people are opportunistic.
Well, there's way more benevolent reasons, but I'm just saying, something caused the flood.
Well, yeah, but
and I don't think God says, "Oh, man's bad, I'm going to flood you out." I don't ever bought that in my life.
Right. No, I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you there, and I don't think actually the Bible says that. I think the esoteric lesson from the flood is that was the bloodline, that bloodline was somehow corrupted by something that came from a different creative source, which to me is just garbage too, because there's got to be one source for everything. But yeah, I mean, I would. Gosh, I know there's somebody that supposedly was raising money for the rectilineator experiment, but I mean, who knows if that's ever going to be done? I mean, God, what would something like that cost? I mean,
Well, that was a point I wanted to get to, is that we need to have another rectilineator experiment, and everyone should be willing to chip in on it. NASA, Globalings, everybody, right? Everyone should want to see it, and just end the argument, and we could just have them erected on, we could get people to donate their land and just have a 2-mile stretch along the water here, and all over the earth. We could have like a couple dozen of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
but instead we got the Georgia Guidestones, where you can peek through and you can see Polaris, and yeah. You have to understand the sacred geometry, and you have to understand the actual teachings, which we're trying to piece together from the information that's available to us, period. And so that's we're definitely at a disadvantage where that's concerned. But what we do have is we have sheer numbers of people that can all be kind of working these things out on their own, and we can all come to group discussion and sort of have that like a federation, like a True Earth Realm Federation kind of thing happening.
Yeah. We're gonna do that, man. We've got to get. I want to get both of these experiments done again. The Plumb Bob experiment is so powerful. I think it's more powerful than the force the line, because there's so many more variables that could be messing it up. But one thing that I'm doing on intellectualketchup.com is I'm going to add a calculator that's going to give people true calculations from observation, height, and distance. And the problem I see a lot, and I've seen for many, many years, is just an example, is people saying there's a 965-mile hump between Hawaii and California, when in reality it's a little over 200-mile hump, which is still a huge hump, right? But when you get down to 10-mile stretches and you use those same calculations, you're completely inaccurate. And so there's something called the sagitta in geometry, and then you've got, which is also just basically the rise, and then you've got your chord. So you have to calculate your chord and your rise, and you can do that off of your arc length, and the arc length would be the distance. So whatever the distance is, it flat or convex or concave, doesn't matter. That's the arc. And then you've got you can use your arc and your presupposed radius. And that's the other problem. And this goes back to what I said earlier about, I think the Earth is like 37,000 plus miles circumference. That totally changes all the math on what we would expect if it was concave to be a dip. The dip would be so slight that as you raised up, yes, it would rise up to your eye level, but it's almost not twice, but it's a good size bigger than what we expected it to be. So everyone's doing these calculations based on a convex Earth, 24/9, and that's complete bogus bullshit, lies. So I'm going to have this calculator, and the other thing I'm doing is I'm going to have a Ben Franklin Says. I already have the tab on there, but there's nothing in there. And for people that don't know, I've been in sales my whole life, and Ben Franklin's close is when you're talking to a client and you say, well, let's compare. And you draw a line down the center of a piece of paper, and you put the pros and the cons, and you go down the list, and you create a bucket list. What's the benefits? What's the not, And so what I'm doing is on Ben Franklin Says is I've got, all the argument points, globe, flat, or concave. And the globe is dead. I mean, I've got comments on all the down arrows on the globe. And then I'm going to have comments on all the up arrows on flat or concave. And then I'm going to be creating videos that tailor to the most important points. But right now, we have no proof of flat. And in fact, we only have proof of concave with the tamarack and the force the line. I know that's a heartbreaker to flat earthers, but it's true. So we need to repeat those tests, and if we repeat them and we get the same results, then come on, guys. But we have no flat proof. And people are going to say, what about gyroscopes? What about celestial navigation? I can break all of these down. I'm going to give you an example on the gyroscope. On the gyroscope, no one has ever left Earth. No one has ever seen what a gyroscope will do when it is taken away from its downward force relation reference. So when you spin it up sideways or up horizontal or whatever, it stays there, and you can go all over the Earth. If it's a ball, it stays that way because the downward force, it stays in that reference frame. NASA lied to everybody, putting out black and white photos of satellites and saying it remains rigid in space. I remember seeing those back in 2005 and 6. Like, oh, yeah, the gyroscope remains rigid in space. Bullshit. No one's ever seen that. That's a lie. Absolute fucking lie. And we all run around talking about gyroscopes all the time. I was one of these people. And then what was the other one? Celestial navigation? Just Google what the average person can sail mileage in one day. And then Google what the accepted error in celestial navigation, which is huge. And then you combine the short distance traveled with the accepted error. That's why they just travel as far as they can, and they always adjust their sailing. It's not accurate. So it's a non sequitur. We've got Nathan Oakley spending years and years pointing out celestial navigation, and it's not even a point that proves anything. It makes me mad, actually, because I went for it for 16 years. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little upset, but
it's okay. That's okay. It's yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue when you lay it out like this. It's I mean, first off, it's a lot of information, so it's a bit of information overload too. So obviously, come back and take a look at this. I know Jake's going to have this information up on. You're going to put this on the IK website once you're finished with it, correct?
Yeah, and I'm going to be breaking each aspect down, and then I want to have conversations. I do not want to have debates. If you disagree with me, post your comment. I'd love to hear it. I'm not going to do a debate. I've been against debates my whole life. They're unproductive. I want to talk to people who want to have conversation.
Dave Weiss, Professor Dave debate. That was just garbage. It was just Dave trying to give his spiel, which is great.
David's a great guy. He's just not
Professor Dave just being a dick the whole time.
I'm sitting here picking on Nathan Oakley for the celestial navigation, but damn, I wish Nathan Oakley would have been the debater.
Right.
David's not a debater, and he tells you that. He doesn't want to debate. He's like me. It's unproductive.
I think that's a good example of why it's really healthy for people to give their own thoughts and their own opinions, and it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to not agree. I don't find a thing wrong with what Dave Weiss does, even if we don't agree with everything.
Right.
Even if we don't agree with everything he says, what he does is great. It's fantastic. It's got a ton of value.
Yeah.
And it's just intellectual honesty is just it's a huge thing. There was a comment on from
let's get into the comments, please.
Josh Corey had a comment here. I'm going to back up a little bit for it.
I'm sure he does. Love you, brother.
No, he just said he said something about Antarctica being kind of being above the puddle that we live in. I guess if you want to say we're in a puddle. I don't necessarily totally disagree with him. With this right here, if you can see my screen, I'm sharing.
I like that. He goes, debates are good if neither side knows which side they'll be debating.
So
That's
is my
awesome.
screen? Can you see my screen, Jake?
Yeah. I love this. Yeah.
Okay, so this right here, this is fascinating to me. I just got a copy of this, a print of this. This is a map that was released of the world right after World War II, and this is like the entire war of World War II was fought in the Northern Hemisphere somehow, right? And then all of a sudden, they start to lock down Antarctica and everything like that. And this talks about
Ooh, we're
about the right. And so they give this map, and this is they're calling it the complete azimuthal
equidistant
projections, right?
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be. So you look at that; it looks really familiar on these little maps on the bottom. You see it looks like the Gleason map, right? It looks really familiar. See if I can move that back into focus there. Hang on. Looks really familiar, right? And you see Antarctica. We've all seen this map, right? And then there's all of a sudden saying, well, then here's the underside of the world where this is Antarctica right here. So they're but then we're used to seeing all this land around us being called, right? This bigger Antarctica in this corner, you've got Antarctica in this corner, and then up at the top, and by the way, they hit Hyperborea, nothing over here.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you've got Antarctica over here, right? But then on their projections, so on their projections, it's absolutely insane what they've got going, what they've done here. They've got all this extra land now, sort of like misshapen to sort of make up for. All of a sudden, this is Antarctica, but then when you look at the northern hemisphere, they're saying Antarctica surrounds us. That makes zero sense. This to me looks like sort of like some sort of weird transitional mind trick that they're perpetrating on people, trying to get us onto a globe thing. And this is where, when one of the things that were and Dave Weiss did, which was such a beautiful video, was when he had that sweet little old lady that was talking about how they taught her flat earth in school. And she was crying because he came to her and he's like, no, the earth is flat. The earth is flat.
I think I cried 3 times watching that.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, how many times, and when he says they taught flat earth up into the 60s, people generally don't believe that. But if you look at this is right here. This right here is just post World War II. They're still transitioning their globe model and still trying to lay it out. And then now really all they've done is make a bunch of fucking cartoons. And that's the problem with debates right there. The problem with debates is, if we had a debate, most likely we're arguing with somebody that is just fucking trying to argue the validity of a fucking cartoon. Excuse my language, but it pisses me off that they're trying to argue the validity of a cartoon, the fact that they view the world through this cartoon lens, and there's no merit to debate. We can discuss. Discussions are good, and discussions of just like observable things, like what you laid out. Everything that you laid out can be tested, and if it's tested and it's false, then it's false. The other thing he mentioned was is it using the scientific method, or is it just observable stuff? Because the scientific method says if you put forward a hypothesis, the hypothesis has to be able to be tested. Period. And so, I mean, what we've laid forward can be tested. Absolutely.
Well, and that's Josh's. I saw Josh saying that, it's observably flat and all of that. But if we have the ability, and we do, to do the rectilineator experiment again and the Tamarack mine shaft or a mine shaft experiment, why wouldn't we do it to end the argument once and for all? I mean, though we need physical manual measuring, and we don't have it. And all we all do is argue about optics. And we all know that the atmosphere is horrible for proving the shape. Is light bending up? Is light bending down? Is it moist out? Is it rainy? Is it like, we have to have a physical measurement? And I believe the rectilineator was a great test. and the fact that the Copernican Society was there from the globe side, and they forced them to do it twice over, all the way one way and another, and it still came out within, inches of being concave. That is powerful. Now, that's in whatever year that was. We have modern machining, modern laser stuff. My God, if we had $500,000, I don't know why we can't raise $500,000 between all the globe people who hate us all the flat people, and even get some concave people to chip in, and we set this up somewhere, and that's what Mathew and I want to do. We want to start a foundation and raise some money, and get it done, and end this infighting.
Yep.
If we can do it, that's what I'm saying, Josh. If we can do it, why wouldn't we? I don't want to just throw in the towel like I have for all these years and said we don't need a model. We don't need that. We don't need a test. We know I can look at it. It's flat. I did that. I was that guy for 16 years probably. I can't keep doing it, and I'm tired of the lies. I want to know where I live, and I know damn well they're hiding something in Antarctica. I know it. Anyway.
Or beyond. Or beyond. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and we got a lot more to get into, but we've been going for. We didn't do too bad. 2.5 hours.
I can't believe I'm still awake. Holy cow!
You did a fantastic job. I think though I think the bottom line is to kind of bring this out is the model that we want to test is that we live in a concave realm. In a concave realm, and we live it's surrounded by water, with basically water at a different.
Well, hey, look, I'm interrupting you, but man, if I literally get my 3D model done and the craters on the moon line up with the craters on the Earth, mm-hmm. I don't think anyone can argue with that. How could they? That's like a super key. Like what are the chances of them lining up?
I mean, it's there's, they would have.
And they are lining up. I keep getting chunks, and I'm having to use Blender. If anybody knows how to use Blender, my God. The problem is that the Earth is at a fake tilt. The images were shown are wrong. The map, the craters were shown. They are where they are. But what's going to end up happening is the face of the moon, once I line everything up, the Earth is going to be on portions of the moon, a portion, and that's going to even further prove the lie, right? Because then it'll line up on a certain chunk of the moon, and then there won't be any craters because we haven't been to those other areas and they're not on the map.
Well, that's just it. If you take that tilt out and it lines up, then it shows that tilt is fake, and it shows that the craters and the pitting on the moon is correlated.
Well, I'm not kidding. I need to do a separate video on the tilt, but I can show you the math. The Milky Way is literally straight across through the center of the Earth, and when they tilted it, they tilted the Milky Way away. But it's literally the Milwaukee Way, but it is literally straight across the center, and it's where the two realms are meeting, I believe. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like two spheres, stars and everything meeting in the center. If you look at it in that light, it really is kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, man, this was good. We got through it, and I think we have some cool stuff that we're going to be doing ahead. Everybody
Inverse globe logic.
Josh and Hippie Shake and Shine Island. Shine Island asks us, do you like what are you saying kind of like what Vibes of the Cosmos shows? Well, kind of.
Except he's stuck on flat, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Be nice, but
no, I'm not going to be nice. I'm with Karen B. Karen B said it's utter garbage. I've tried and tried. I thought, there's something to this. No, there's nothing to that.
Well,
no, there's something to it. Like I said, I believe that moon is emanating from the Earth, but it's not. The continents aren't. We're not looking at Italy up there and the islands. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I've tried to make it work. Trust me. I'm with Karen B. But maybe I change my mind tomorrow. Maybe she will too.
Says the tornado war, which blocked Antarctica access, was caused because, quote unquote, they were helping the Soviets. Yeah, absolutely. That's always the liars that be are always manipulating the sleepers, because that's really what's happening is they're just getting a critical mass of sleepers to go along with, oh, this is for protection, or we're being kind, we're being good. This is the good thing.
Josh, if you drop 2 plumb bobs down 5,000 feet and make sure nobody touches them, how can you manipulate the measurement? They couldn't, and that's what they had to come up with, like, oh, there's magnets in the rocks, and they came up with all these excuses. Oh, that it was the wind in the shaft, and they closed the shaft off, and it still was the exact same. So nobody could. I don't think. Maybe somebody could manipulate it if they wanted to, but not if there's people from the globe. I want everybody there on these experiments from all sides. Right?
Right.
How can you? I'm not David Copperfield. I'm not going to be performing some magic trick. If the lines diverge, they diverge.
Right. No, absolutely. Hey, Josh Corey said, hey, what a great show. Thank you, Josh. We really, really appreciate all your support.
Oh man, Josh, I was this close to begging you to help us. Oh my goodness.
And Hippie Shake for sharing everyone's stuff.
Yes.
Hippie Shake is so awesome. I see her in all of these chats. She's always.
I don't even know her real name or first name.
That's okay. We don't need to. She's just cool. She's all good. But no, it's we thank you all dearly for that too. And
yes.
I hope you all don't hate us.
I'm still a flat earther, right here. I'll wear it on my shirt tomorrow in front of everybody. But I need proof, damn it.
Ian, repeatable and verifiable. Absolutely. It's like, I'm one of those people. I'm not afraid of like